starting a new job these days, right? It's like, especially if you're remote or even just hybrid, it's like fumbling around for a light switch in a dark room.
Oh, tell me about it. And for our listeners out there who, they value efficiency, they want to jump right in.
Exactly. Who wants to waste time figuring out like where the virtual water cooler is, right?
Total.
And that's where, at least according to all the hype, this Osmore Office platform says they've got the solution, like they're claiming to be the digital workspace.
They wanted to rule them all, huh?
Right. So that's why we did a deep dive, website, FAQs, the whole 9 yards to see if it really lives up to all the buzz.
And they're really pushing this whole single digital workspace thing.
Yeah, which is a bold move in a world where we're practically drowning in work apps, wouldn't you say?
No kidding. Like, how many different notifications can one person handle in a day?
Seriously. And they keep hammering on this employee experience thing, like unforgettable employee experience, power your people to thrive, all that jazz.
Yeah, but what does that actually look like on a Tuesday afternoon?
Exactly. So how do you actually translate that kind of like marketing speak into, what it actually means for people who are like, trying to get their work done?
Right. Because it's one thing to talk a big game, but
it's got to deliver, right?
Exactly.
So let's break it down then. When they say employee experience, what are they even talking about?
Okay, so basically it's how people feel about working at a company from day one all the way through. It's about, are they valued? Do they feel supported? Are they engaged? And crucially, this holds true whether they're in the office or, working from a beach somewhere.
Makes sense, especially now with so many teams scattered across every time zone imaginable. It's not like the old days where everyone was just down the hall.
Exactly. So you've got to create that sense of connection somehow.
And speaking of connection, Osmore really highlights these 4 main benefits they're going for. Collaboration, obviously, engagement, inclusive culture, and good old-fashioned communication. They even give some concrete examples of how their platform is supposed to actually achieve all that.
Right. They're not just throwing out buzzwords, they are at least trying to back it up. For example, they specifically talk about how Osmore Office is designed to actually let employees be a part of the decision-making process at their company.
Interesting. So it's not just top-down information flow. They're actually trying to build in like a way for everyone to have a voice.
That's the idea, which honestly is a good direction to be moving in, wouldn't you say?
For sure. Especially, again, thinking about folks who might be new to a company or, working remotely and feeling a little bit, out of the loop.
It's easy to feel siloed these days.
Totally. So, okay, they call it this whole social connections and engagement piece, and it seems like that's a big part of how they're approaching this.
Yeah, it's less about just like a repository for information and more about actually getting people to interact, which is clever when you think about it.
Because that's one of the hardest things to replicate, right? When you're not all in the same physical space.
Exactly.
So how does Osmore actually try to foster that? I mean, without creating a whole other like to-do list for people.
That's the million-dollar question. They've got this whole social intranet thing going on, dedicated channels. So like your teams, your projects, whatever. They even mentioned polls and surveys built right in.
So like trying to recreate that, oh, hey, let's just chat by the water cooler kind of vibe.
Yeah, exactly. Those little interactions that you don't realize you miss until they're gone, And for someone who's new or maybe a bit shy, it can be a way to dip their toes in without feeling like they have to, give a big presentation on their first day.
I like that. So it's not just about providing information. It's about making it easy for people to connect over it, build relationships, all that good stuff. Which, speaking of new hires, they made a point of saying that they can, and I quote, make a new hire's first day memorable, which is a pretty bold claim, wouldn't you say?
Now that got my attention.
Right.
Because what does that even mean in the digital world,
Is it like a personalized welcome message from the CEO? Or maybe some kind of virtual tour guide?
Who knows? They were a bit vague on the specifics, so that's definitely something we're going to have to dig into a little deeper.
Yeah, because I'm very curious to see how they actually pull that off in practice.
And it all ties back to this idea of them being the end-all be-all, that single digital workspace. They even have a whole section on it.
Oh yeah, the everything employees need in one place section.
That's the one.
Because on the surface, it does seem like they're taking, things we already use every day, email, chat, whatever, project management software, and just trying to pull it all under the Osmore umbrella.
Right. So what makes them so special?
Yeah. What are they doing that's actually different?
Good question. They talk about the app launcher, obviously, a people hub, which Okay, whatever channels, those we already talked about. But then they also mention analytics.
Hold up. Analytics. They're tracking how people use this thing.
You got it. And that's where I think things get interesting.
Because it's one thing to say you're going to improve employee experience, but actually measuring it, that's a whole other ballgame.
Right. It's data-driven, which isn't usually the first thing you think of when you're talking about employee happiness or whatever.
So for companies, especially the ones obsessed with efficiency and metrics and all that, this could be huge.
Totally. And it's not just like a vanity metric, oh, look how many people logged in today. Remember those polls and surveys they mentioned?
Yeah.
This is how they tie it all together. Get real insights into how people are feeling. Are they actually engaged? Are there pain points that they're not even mentioning outright? All that.
So they're not just trying to streamline how a company communicates. They're trying to measure how effective that communication actually is.
Precisely. It's kind of next level when you think about it.
It is. Okay, but what about all the other tools companies use? There's no way Osmore can replace literally everything.
Oh, absolutely not. And they seem to know that, which is why they make a big deal about all their integrations.
Oh, right. They were boasting about having like 50-something integrations with different platforms.
It's 50 plus, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's less about being a jack of all trades and more like, hey, we know you've got your systems, let's work with them.
Clever. So they're lowering the barrier to entry, especially for companies that might be hesitant to, throw out everything and start from scratch.
Exactly.
But. There's always a but.
Doesn't that also make Osmore kind of a middleman? I mean, is it really the central hub if it's relying on all these other things to function?
That's the tightrope they're walking, right? Trying to be the central nervous system without just becoming another layer of complexity.
It's a tough balance.
It is. It's funny, I did notice that a lot of their language seems very geared towards new hires. Like making the first day memorable, having everything in one place. Is that their main target?
That's a good observation.
Yeah.
They do mention making search easier, content more accessible, which, that would benefit everyone.
Right.
But you're right, they hit that onboarding angle pretty hard.
There's even a whole FAQ specifically about onboarding with Osmore Office.
Yeah, so is it for companies with high turnover, where onboarding is constant? Or is it just the reality of today's job market? Like a smooth onboarding experience, that's a selling point.
First impressions are everything, after all.
That's the truth.
Because if you can make those first few days less like, where am I? What am I doing? Who are you people? That makes a world of difference.
Huge.
Yeah.
Especially for someone who's maybe remote, right? They don't have that in-person office experience to fall back on.
Exactly. But it does make you wonder, can a platform, even one as, as supposedly comprehensive as Osmore, can it really fix a company culture? Or is it just slapping a Band-Aid on a deeper issue?
That's the million-dollar question, right? You can have the fanciest, most well-designed tools, but if underneath it all, the foundation's no good.
Right. It's not going to magically transform anything overnight.
Exactly. It goes back to that whole employee experience thing being about more than just perks or a cool app, right?
It's got to be genuine.
Yeah, people need to feel valued, respected, heard. That comes to the people in charge, the leadership, not just the platform itself.
It's like, okay, so you gave everyone a shiny new oven, but that doesn't automatically make them a chef.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really crucial thing for anyone to keep in mind if they're considering something like Osmore Office. Don't get so caught up in the bells and whistles that you forget to look at, what are your actual goals? What are you trying to achieve?
What problem are you actually trying to solve?
Right. Will this actually get you closer to that? Or is it just going to be another thing that people have to log into every day?
And another notification. Let's be real.
Exactly.
Well, I'd say we've thoroughly unpacked Osmore Office today. Explored the promises, dug into the features, even pondered its potential impact on something as big and messy as company culture.
And hopefully, maybe given our listeners a few new things to think about, right? Because isn't that the mark of a good deep dive?
It's not about just giving all the answers. It's about sparking that curiosity.
Exactly.
Sometimes the most valuable insights come from the questions we ask, not just the ones we have answers to.
100%.
So until next time, everyone, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and remember, the quest for knowledge, that's a journey, not a destination. We'll see you next time.